Hope all of you can hear me. And it's my pleasure and honor to introduce to all of you today's guest of honor and our speaker for today's session. And as mentioned, as you would have received, today's session is on a very, very important topic on managing people in crisis times. And we couldn't have got a better person than Mr. Alok Kapoor, and he comes with almost about 30 years of illustrious experience. Right now, he is the head of franchise business at Mahindra First Choice Services, which belongs to the great Mahindra Group. And he's also a member of Service Excellence Academy at Mahindra Leadership University. And before this role, he was heading the marketing function at SR Steel Limited as well as Hindustan Motors. And he also worked with Escorts, TAF, and Course Limited. And he's a mechanical engineering by study, by education, and he has done his MDP from IIM Ahmedabad. And he is going to talk to us, and he has got a very interesting anecdotal evidences as well as some very interesting snippets for how do we manage people during this crisis time. All over to you, Alok.
Good evening. Thanks, Dr. Nagin. Good evening, participants. Thanks for joining this session. And as I hope you are keeping yourself safe and good health. And this session is on managing people in times of crisis. So what we'll do in today's session, we will not discuss crisis in detail because we all are undergoing kind of crisis right now. We will focus our discussion on managing people in times of crisis. So this session is not for how to manage the crisis. This session is on managing people during the times of crisis. So it's I hope you will find it interesting. So the discussions will be around what's the usual practice of people management, why does crisis situations need a special approach by managers, sports analogy to crisis situation, a test for leaders, and then we'll be discussing about how to handle the team dynamics. Then there are a few tools to handle the crisis situations, so war room approach, data adequacy, and then how should be our quality of response, and what to do in post-crisis event. So moving forward, we all know that usual people management, what we do, we attract, educate, train, motivate, empower, and then reward our people. This is a usual practice of people management. We will not discuss about these usual people management aspects, and I assume that all the participants are fully aware with this. So there is a question in everybody's mind that do even seasoned managers vary their management approach when situations turn from usual to crisis? So there is a poll. So I would like participants to poll yes or no. Yes. So can we have results? What percentage of people feel yes? So out of the total respondents, I think more than 90% are saying yes, and very few are saying no. So yes, we all agree that even seasoned managers vary their management approach when situation turns from normal to crisis. So let's see what is a crisis situation. So in crisis situation, our usual management practices do not work, and we need to have something special. So in short, we'll try to understand what is a crisis situation, what are the symptoms of crisis situation. So first and foremost, all plans go for a toss. Future is not clear. We are not able to deliver what is expected from our team. Sometimes the team tends to lose direction and hence the motivation. And during crisis time, we face unreasonable pressures from various stakeholders. And in crisis time, we do not have enough data to take our decisions. So these are the few symptoms of crisis situation. we move to our first quiz. So I'll show you a photograph in which two persons are there. You need to identify the two persons, their names, and we all know their names. Very few of us may be able to recognize from photographs, so that's why this quiz is there. So within 10 seconds, you have to type your answer in the chat box. Can you identify these guys, these gentlemen? Any guess? So Ganesh and Dipali are saying no, they can't. Yeah, so Suman Saurav is the person who have identified somebody, but wrongly. No, he's not Warren Buffett. Yeah, even I could not have given the answer, don't worry. So these are the two guys whom we recall a lot, and no, not Alan Border, but you are very near to the answer. Yeah, they are related to cricket. Any guesses? Yes, Duckworth Lewis. So Tushar Rangnekar is the person who has answered it rightly. Great, Tushar. So appreciate your guess. So they are Duckworth and Lewis. So what Duckworth and Lewis have given us is the solution when any cricket limited over match has to stop because of the rains or some other reason, and the second batting team, how the target for the second team will be decided. So that formula is calculated by Duckworth-Lewis method or DLS or Duckworth-Lewis-Stens method. And interestingly, these guys are not cricketers. They were not cricketers. They are statisticians, and they have given the formula. Now, many times cricketers do not recall them, remember them for good reason. Somebody is saying audio is not clear. I'll try to be louder. So what happens in DLS situation? In DLS situation, we are imposed unexpectedly DLS target. So suppose the first team has scored in 50 overs some 250 runs. It may happen the second team is supposed to score more than 250 in 45 overs. So it depends on the Duckworth-Lewis calculation. Now, when we tackle the Duckworth-Lewis situation, the second batting team, they have to be sport-hearted. The batsmen at the crease have to be sport-hearted. They cannot crib that why this has happened to me, why this the first team did not get the rains, only we got the rains. So they should not be cursing their fate or something. They have to be tough. They have to be resilient. They have to keep their calm. They have to be calculative. Each time they have to understand how many runs they have to score. And sometimes the match is curtailed twice. The number of overs are curtailed twice. So they need to be adaptive and yet tactful. So these are the qualities are required in handling DLS. In business situations, we face a kind of DLS, and especially in current situation, because of the current pandemic, the financial year is curtailed for all of us, and the businesses are not happening usually in these months. Hence, we are not able to meet. Many of us are not able to meet our costs, so we need to compensate this when the lockdown is open. So the targets are very steep. The number of overs available are lesser. So this is a kind of DLS for us, and we have to be sport-hearted to handle this kind of situation. We have to be tough, resilient, calm, calculative, adaptive, and tactful. So this happens with individuals. These are the qualities required in individuals or the leaders and the teams. Now, moving forward, all the crises are, in fact, test of leadership. Now, what leaders are supposed to do in situations of crisis? First and foremost thing is take charge. So in IIM Ahmedabad, Professor Dikshit, in the class, he used to say in his modulation style, take charge. And that time we could not understand what actually he means by take charge. And when we face the situation and we take charge, then we realize that how important it is to take charge. So a leader, first and foremost thing is to take charge. A leader cannot wait for things to happen. A leader should not allow things to happen just like that. So they need to take charge. And they should be ready to steer the ship whenever it is required. The third mantra for leader is, during the time of crisis, communicate, communicate, and communicate. You have to communicate. You have to over-communicate. Now you see the mood in India. Generally, this is not related to any politics or something, but generally, all of us, all the people, wherever you discuss, are appreciating our Prime Minister. Why we all appreciate him? Because he speaks to us, he communicates with us. Consider a situation wherein Mr. Modi, had he not communicated to us thrice or four times over TV or over video, through video, and he would have taken the same decisions. So communication is the key in terms of crisis. We need to communicate across. We need to communicate with all the team members. We need to communicate with all the stakeholders. So we need to understand that how the crisis is being perceived by each of the stakeholder. Now each stakeholder may have a different element or different severity of crisis. So we need to analyze it from the angle of, from the perspective of different stakeholders. Now in business, there could be stakeholders like suppliers or the employees or the investors or maybe your clients, customers, channel. So we need to understand how this particular crisis or any crisis is impacting them and what is going on in their minds. So we need to understand their mindset very, very clearly. And then there are a number of stakeholders in any business, and how we deal with those stakeholders. These stakeholders, we do not deal with the stakeholders directly. We have our teams, and different team members tackle or deal with different stakeholders. So in the time of crisis, we need to allow, we need to encourage, we need to enable and help all our individual members, team members, to handle the pressures from various stakeholders. Now, in all crisis times, all the stakeholders, the affected stakeholders, they exert or they give different kind of pressures to the businesses. So we need to understand, if somebody is into FMCG retail today, so what kind of pressures they must be facing from distributors, dealers, retailers, or suppliers, logistics, or whatever. So their different team members must be dealing with them. So we need to help and enable our team members to handle the stakeholders' pressures. Now, stakeholders' pressures are inevitable. They are not wrong if they are putting any kind of undue pressure during crisis time, because they are having their own anxiety, they are having their own problems, so they are exerting pressure on us. So that's why we need to handle those or tackle all those pressures. We need to identify the pitfalls very fast. So in time of crisis, certain times we do not take the well-decided course. We take some new course, and in that course, we need to understand where all we can face the pitfalls. So those identifications of pitfalls by the leader is very, very essential, and it has to be very quick. And of course, in the times of crisis, the reviewing goes up and the feedback mechanism should work very fast. So you must have seen, you must have experienced that these days, a lot of meetings are happening on usual things, reviews are happening, even though businesses are not happening. Why? Because all the leaders want to communicate, understand the pulse of every small matter. So this is how a leader has to behave in the times of crisis. And of course, we have to be very, very honest with our team members. If we do not understand the root cause of the crisis, but only we see that symptoms, there's no issue. We should be fair, and we should be telling our teams, hey, I also don't understand, no problem, but this is the issue, let's face it together. Or if somebody else is having the clue, you should ask for it. Like current pandemic, this is the current pandemic, this corona, now what is the root cause? Nobody knows, it's not in public. So in a business, if we do not know the root cause of this problem, we can be honest to our team, with our team. We need to ensure that our entire team keeps the faith. If faith is lost by even certain number of people, then that will become a weak link. So we need to ensure that people keep faith, and we need to curb the cribbing practice. There are, on all teams, there are a few people who crib a lot. They start cribbing earlier. So we need to curb that practice by motivating them, handling them. So these are the traits what a leader has to exhibit in time of crisis. A leader has to understand the team dynamics. What is a team dynamic? So any views? What do we generally mean by team dynamics, friends? You can type in the chat box. Yeah, cohesiveness, great. Abhinav Acharya says cohesiveness in the team. Yeah, we need to understand the aspirations and needs. Yunus Aziz says change of behavior, we need to understand. Shailesh says understand the team strength, involvement, how team behave in a certain manner, and so on. So, right. So what is the meaning of team dynamics? That how the team members are interdependent, are connected to each other, are helpful to each other, how they behave as a team. So we know the individuals, but how they will behave in a team leader has to understand, and more so in times of crisis. Because in crisis time, yeah, thanks. I think sufficient views have come, so we can focus on the things on the screen now. So we have no time for hit and trial. In case of crisis, we have to give the solutions, or we have to work for solution together very fast, and we cannot experiment a lot. So we need to understand, it should not happen that we give the task to first guy A, and then we give it to team consisting of B and C, and then we try to apply D there. No. In first go, we should be knowing that who is the right person, with whom, how they gel with each other, and then we need to create the task force very quickly and assign the task. And next comes the identification of certain types of team members. Now, it is generally said that a manager should not typecast or should not be stereotyping his team members by calling them or by understanding them in certain manner. But in times of crisis, the team leader, manager has to understand that within his team, who are the natural leaders, who take up the opportunity and can handle the other team members, who are the influencers, who are the naysayers, who are the followers, who are the brains who come with solution fast, who are the broadcasters or communicators in the team, and so on. So you can have your own list, your own understanding of your team, and you can have the strengths and weaknesses of the team members known to you. So there's I would not suggest any tool to be applied here to understand who does what and who is good at what. This is a very general understanding we should have of our team. Now what happens? Sometime in times of crisis, we are supposed to handle a new team, entirely new team. We are not aware of their team dynamics. We are not aware of their interrelations and the strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so somebody is asking what is the meaning of naysayers? Naysayers are the people who will say no to any suggestion. So that's what Bhanu asked here. So we now move on. So when we are given the new team, very quickly we need to assess that how people will react to certain things. So we need to start working by giving them small tasks. So if some crisis is there, so first we should try a new team. If it is a new team, we should give them a very small task and see how they behave, how they discuss, and then quickly decide that what are the traits of different people, and then you have to go with one or two people in task force. If it's a small job, if it's a large job, then you have to create some natural leader as the captain of that team. Sometimes what happens, we are not declared managers for a team. So now it comes to our leadership. Certain times we are announced or declared a formal leader that yes, so and so is the general manager or the vice president or the leader of this team, and there are so many people working with him. But in certain crisis times, there's no announced leader, and then the natural leaders emerge and they have to take charge. So I suggest all the people, all the participants, not to wait for formal announcements or formal authorities to be given to them by somebody else, and then only they should take charge. No, we should take charge ourselves very fast whenever it is needed, whenever there is a crisis situation, and try to handle the team by identifying the peers or what kind of strengths and weaknesses they have and move on. And somebody has written in the chat box that as divide and rule. No. The divide and rule is not the formula, and it should never be applied in any management practice, and more so, it should never be thought of during crisis time. Next is the interrelations. So we need to understand the interrelations of the team members, and we need to assign the task appropriately. The way Vanar Sena was created by Rama. Now think of the situation of Ramayana when Ram and Lakshman, only two brothers, and they had to fight Ravana. And they created the whole force, Vanar Sena, and then they fought and won. So Nal, Neel, or Sushen, or whatever, whosoever was available, they have given the appropriate task and moved ahead. So this is a real example of a crisis situation when you are not having sufficient resources, you are not having appropriate resources, yet you need to deliver. So we need to be having this kind of sport-hearted approach that, so what if my team, the batsman got hurt, why can't my bowlers score a few boundaries? So that kind of approach, confidence and direction we need to give to our team to handle the situation. Moving ahead, there is a tool called war room approach, which is many times it is used by managers or the leaders in times of crisis. Now, war room, what is the meaning of war room? That there is a war going on and you need to have a control room where all the information is available and the decision making and the planning and short-term strategies are being made. So in war room, what we need to do when there is a crisis situation in business, we need to quickly create a war room. What is the meaning of war room here? So if it is available, physical space is available, and when we are able to meet in normal times, so a place is designated where at a certain fixed time during the day or week or whatever, whenever there is a schedule, a certain set of people meet there and review the whole situation and then discuss the tweak the action plan very quickly and move ahead. So a war room is very different from usual project management. In usual project management, the teams are given a project plan and the project monitoring of the progress of each task of the project is done in a project management approach. In war room approach, between two war rooms, the approach can change totally, because it's a war-like situation. So people have to be very, very flexible, very fast, very quick, and they should be able to take decisions very fast and put them to action. So the war room reviews are very, very comprehensive. What happens in project reviews, we monitor or we try to review certain portion of the project process, whatever task is important or critical task and all. Whereas in war room, the entire situation is reviewed in a very comprehensive manner every time. Comprehensive reviews are done with quick joint discussions. The people have to discuss jointly and all have to participate. So it should not happen that a person from finance will speak when his turn will be there, and when he is asked to speak, a person from sales will only discuss about the targets and the resources required. No. Here, everybody can participate. It's a joint team. And if somebody is observing this war room discussion happening, then he should not be able to make out that who is from which department. This kind of cohesive and uniform approach is there. And short-term strategies are formed in war room. A lot of orientation is there for actions. So we are not there to discuss processes, methods, other than we are there to discuss actions. So I'll not call that result orientation alone, but this is action orientation, that what is supposed to be done next, that is discussed, course is drawn, and then finally we move. And in war room, as I mentioned earlier, there is a sense of participation. Every member present in war room is a member, is an active member, and he or she deliver, they participate with full involvement. It should not happen that there are 3-4 people in a group of 10 only speak and take decision, and remaining are the just audience, which is generally happens sometimes in say some corporate meetings. So in war room, those things are not allowed. They should not happen. So with war room, most of the crises are the teams are able to handle. In war rooms or in crisis kind of situation, we need to keep a balance between data adequacy and speed of delivery, speed of action. In crisis time, we do not have sufficient data to take calls, to take decisions. Many decisions are taken on gut feel or insufficient data, and it's not full. Certain times the complete data analysis is not there, yet you have to take calls based on the things which are visible from outside. I'm not saying that we should not analyze the data, but if time is not permitting, if time is not there, we have to move fast. So speed is given more importance than the adequacy and accuracy of data analysis. There, in normal management approach, what we say, it's a PDCA approach, and then you have to understand the data fully before taking the call. No, in times of crisis, the calls have to be taken even if sufficient data is not there. But we suppose we are able to handle one crisis well. We should not make it as a normal practice of calling shots without having data or without doing the data analysis. This is the approach only can be applied when there is a crisis. This should not be made as a normal habit. Next comes the quality of response. What kind of response we are giving to the crisis? So there is one picture where is well orchestrated manner, complete opera is there, orchestra is there, and this side is a completely chaotic response is there. None of them will work. We don't have time, and we don't have a luxury of time to create the orchestra here. We can't afford to give chaotic solution. So what we give is a semi-organized solution, semi-organized approach where we have all the ingredients. They may not be fully organized the way orchestra is there, or orchestra is organized, but they are not chaotic. Whatever I can pick, I can see, and I can deliver here. So they are more functional in nature. So the learning here is that in times of crisis, we need to give workable, practical solutions rather than high quality solutions or very, very chaotic, very fast solutions. So we need to keep an optimum approach here for giving semi-organized solutions. So that's what is depicted here on the screen. Let's discuss. We have understood that what are the symptoms of crisis, what are the traits of a leader in times of crisis, how to understand team dynamics, war room approach and all. The discussion point here is that what is to be done when crisis is over. Yeah, friends, you can share your views through chat. Reflections and learnings, says Anand, very good. Dispound the learning. Review, Jaykumar says. Sharing of learning and frame, it's moving very fast. Retrospect, sustain, balance sheet first. These are the responses. Experience and learning, yeah, great. Take the best of crisis, lessons learned. So most of the responses are around learning and how to handle the similar crisis in future or something like that. Good. Empathy. Empathy has to be there during crisis also. So it's not that only when crisis is over we need to exhibit empathy. Yes, they mentioned that. Sorry. Analyze the response, come out with a refreshed approach, make a document. Great. So very good. I am happy to see a lot of responses and variety of responses and all are correct practically. Let's move ahead. So first and foremost thing is when crisis is over, we need to gather the team either through VC or call or through physical meeting. Yeah, somebody is saying party hard, great. And then we need to declare that the crisis is over. This is one point many managers miss. They feel that people will automatically understand that yes, crisis is over and everything is normal now. Sometimes what managers try to see, some greedy managers, they feel, oh, my team could perform so much during crisis, let it continue. No, it's not sustainable because the quality was not there. We were having semi-organized approach and we were compromising with some of the data analysis. So that should not be the continuous practice. So what we need to do is, we need to declare this crisis is over. We should shut the war room. War room should not be a continuous affair. We should appreciate the efforts put by the team members during the crisis time, recognize great efforts and all those things. And analyze WWW. WWW is not World Wide Web or the wrestling thing. It's what went well and what needs improvement in our working. So these two things are mentioned and somebody rightly mentioned that we need to prepare and publish and circulate a detailed document with learnings, and this should be with full honesty. If as a manager you have taken some wrong decision during crisis and then later your team was in trouble because of that and finally everybody put efforts together and we could overcome the crisis, we should not be shying away in mentioning that in the document. So it should be very honest, transparent, frank document listing all the things, and then we should be ready to avert or face the next crisis. So as we all know that businesses or the lives are the series of crises. WNI full form is what needed improvement or what needs improvement, and WWW is what went well. And yes, utilize the new skills in people which were not known earlier, Priyanka says, and it's a great participation. What went well is the Vinod again explains, great. So these are the few comments and these are the things we need to do when crisis is over. And once crisis is over, yes, if you have done it nicely during crisis or you could overcome it, party hard and prepare for next phase. The only suggestion here or the point I'm trying to make is that let's not make the working during crisis as our normal way of working. Yeah, friends, PPT can be shared with you. Somebody has asked. So let's sum up what we discussed so far. So one is, as a manager, one has to take charge during crisis. We need to remember Duckworth-Lewis learnings, how we handle Duckworth-Lewis. We have to be honest. We should have two-way communication with the team, understand team dynamics well. War room is a good tool. We can create our own war room, and a lot of literature is available about war room, how to create war rooms and all. And there is no time for perfection. This should be kept in mind that time is not there. We need to move fast. Certain steps can be wrong, but again, we can't sit and wait. We need to take calls. And crises are the opportunities for managers. The managers can test their managerial skills, can hone up their managerial skills, and can use this to become more seasoned. And people management during crisis is really different. It's not the same. So what we generally read in management books, sometimes we do not have time and resources available to practice all those things which we have learned in management books and we have been practicing some time. But in crisis, we need to change the way of working. Yes, sometimes when the crisis is over, whatever we learned new style of working, we need to adopt for a longer, for continuous working. Yes, but not everything. And another caution to managers: please do not create artificial crisis to get performance from your team. Sometimes we hear, "Hey guys, this year is crucial. We need to prove our mettle." And every year they say the same thing. Every quarter they say the same thing to the team. No, it should not happen. The crisis, when it is there, otherwise it should be a wolf cry. So it should be used for the development of the team's own development and surviving the businesses through crisis. This is the overall thing. So now we can move to the questions. So you can post your questions in the chat with all option. And Vinod, I'll request Vinod if you can coordinate for this session, and you can read the questions which one by one would like to answer them. Thank you.
Yeah. Faizad Wadia has a question. Can you help us with your insights on how we can apply the war room approach, especially now when our meetings are more virtual and lack a human-to-human interaction?
Yeah, great question, Faizad. So this particular war room approach was devised by US Army, and then later it was put in practice by various corporates. So from my own experience, whenever there is a crisis situation, we create a war room. And these days, when we are not able to meet physically and everything is happening from work from home, so we have created half an hour slot every day. The complete leadership team of my company, we interact, we discuss what is going on in overall environment, how it is impacting us, and we discuss stakeholder by stakeholder. So very formally, we say what is going to our customers, or what is happening with our, say, channel partners, what is happening with our suppliers, or logistics partners, or investors, or whatever. And each war room, each day, each stakeholder view or perspective is discussed, and based on that, what we discussed earlier, what were the action plans, how our actions are happening. Suppose we wanted to do certain things during crisis and then we could not do. So that is also reported to all during the, say, war room. And if certain things what we decided we want to dump, we dump it and move ahead. So move ahead with practical solution is the approach of war room. So that's what is happening through VC. So VC has to happen a fixed time or a short duration. And we also sometimes take up topics one by one, that what we should do with the, say, we are in a business where we deal with a lot of our franchise partners. We have more than 500 franchise partners across the country. So in one of the war room session was that how franchisees are tackling their employees and their welfare. And in our business, we are into multi-brand car servicing or multi-brand two-wheeler servicing. So our dealers or franchisees have a lot of contractors also who bring a lot of manpower for working. and those are not formal employments. So how to take care of the people who were into daily wages before this COVID thing came, and what they would be doing in this COVID lockdown, and how to take care of those daily wage earners. So from that, one of the discussions from War Room, one solution came, and we worked on it. So War Room help, and we need to be very, very practical in understanding that certain times, if the crisis is too huge, suppose 10 of us get together who are non-scientists, non-doctors, and decide how we can fight with coronavirus. So we can protect ourselves, we can protect the, say, society, community, but can we find a real solution which is scientific in nature? No, that's not our field of work. So certain times, if War Room try to solve certain other problems which are not in their, say, beyond their resources or scope, they may fail also. So failure is not a bad word in War Room. Like in war, if you are failing on one front, you quickly move to other front, or you deploy some other regiment there. So this is what I can share with my experience from War Room. Yeah, Vinod?
Yeah. Priyanka Agarwal, what if the employer starts taking undue advantage of the crisis to make people do the work that is not necessary at the moment? How do we tackle it?
Okay, so this is a very funny thing that some work is being deployed which is not necessary. But yes, what happens, suppose an organization is there which is having, say, 200 processes, and all processes are well laid down, and they are all documents are there, and they wanted to do a process review during times of lockdown, and they put all the employees to rewrite the processes. So employees certainly will feel, hey, what's the need of rewriting this process? They are going well. But if you review those processes during this lockdown time, and you do, so certain organizations were overdoing the training part. So every day there will be 2-3 trainings for the employees, and employees were fed up with the training. That also we have witnessed in certain companies. So yeah, those things could be unnecessary, but look from the other angle. We are engaging our people. In times of crisis, we need to communicate. Now certainly you cannot communicate without contents. So sometimes to create that content, to have the content or keep the context right, these kind of works are deployed. And if it is a totally wasteful activity, then I can't comment.
Both Bhavna Pandya and R.K. Chaudhary have the same question. They have requested you to explain the DLS learning or the DLS approach, if possible.
So, Duckworth Lewis, let's take it with some, say, artificial example. So, first team in cricket has scored, say, 250 runs in 50 overs. And by the way, these days, Duckworth Lewis is also applicable in T20. So, in 50 overs, this 250 is scored, and the next team comes. So, they have their own calculation that in 50 overs, they need to score 251. So, asking rate is 5.00 something. So, they are prepared to do 5 runs per over. And certainly in first 10 overs, they are supposed to make 50 as per their calculation. But they were going fine. They have not lost any wicket in first 10 overs. 15th over, suddenly the clouds come and they start losing wickets for some other reason or because of humidity or something. And that time, around 20th over, the match is stopped for, say, half an hour or so. And now they have to, what the new score has come to them is, in 40 overs, they are supposed to make 240 runs. In Duckworth Lewis, these kind of unreasonable targets do come. Now in 40 overs, 240, so 20 overs have already gone. So balance 20 overs, they have to score at the rate of 7 or 8 runs per over. At that time, their batsmen are not there. They've already sitting in the pavilion. Now how to handle the situation? Vice versa, it can happen with the bowling team also, that because of Duckworth Lewis, the target becomes so small that it becomes a say 7 overs, team has to score 60 runs. It's not a great target after learning T20 and all. So from both sides it works. So in that times, we need to quickly change our approach So that time we should not be demotivated. Now, what we feel when we are watching this on TV, we say, hey, it's a sports. What happens? It is so one team will win anyway. But think of a person, the player over there. His career is at stake. It's a question of life and death for that player. And still, the players keep their calm. They maintain their patience. They do the calculations, and then they deliver, whether they are bowlers or batsmen and whatever. So, in Duckworth-Lewis situation, the resources available are lesser, the targets are steeper, and you have no time for arranging these resources because those resources cannot reach you. So this is a kind of analogy in businesses also, especially for the companies who are having very set target for the whole year, whether it's calendar year of 21 or the financial year of 21, we are losing 2 months of business. Now in 2 months, loss of top line is one thing, but 2 months bottom line has gone for 6. So how to compensate this bottom line in just 10 months? And remember, those 10 months or 9 months available, you were not given a very, very small target or very easy target. So now your targets have become further tougher, and we don't know when the lockdown will open, what will happen. So people may say, hey, what can I do if COVID has come? This is none of my fault. So a cricketer does not say, hey, it's not my fault. The rain, I did not pray to rain God to bring rains. They just go on. They move. They are sport-hearted. And then they win. So that kind of approach has to be there for tackling Duckworth-Lewis kind of challenge. That's what I meant by Duckworth-Lewis solution here.
Vivek, Prahlad has an interesting question. How do we deal with people who don't want to work but take a shelter during this crisis situation and in turn affect the work output?
This can happen in normal situation also. So in crisis situation, in normal situation, certain times you can take actions, you can do certain things which can change the situation for those people, or they can again be put back to work or whatever. But in crisis situation, you are not able to take actions. So at one time, your time resource has been reduced from say 12 months to 10 months this year. Certain people don't want to work, they want to take shelter of this. So your team size has also got reduced. So now you have to be dependent from others on only few members and get it going. So can't help. So you have to keep your calm. Many of you have gone through the emotional intelligence session also. So you have to keep your emotional intelligence intact and then handle the situation. So rather than focusing yourself on those people who are not listening or taking shelter of the situation and trying to fudge the various information or their availability during work from home, let's not focus on them. We will have these elements in all the companies, all the teams, any point of time. Let's focus on the larger task. So suppose there are some fire is there, and you tell someone to bring water, and he's not bringing water. So will you wait for him? Will you correct him, or you will go ahead yourself, and you will put somebody else on to bring the water? So that kind of simple solution is there. Let's ignore for the time being and move ahead. Yes, Vinod?
Yeah, Abhinav Acharya has a question. In most crisis situations, the attrition rate of employees spike up due to management pressures. How do we handle such situation, especially when we are not a part of the senior team or a senior leadership team?
Okay, so if you are not senior, sometimes you feel that you are not empowered to handle the situation, though you have the solution. So there could be various situations. You have the solution, you don't have the solution. If you have the solution, you have to discuss with your seniors. If you are not being heard, then you have to take situation in your command. You have to take charge sometime. In crisis situation, the hierarchy levels do not work. The formal hierarchy goes for a toss in times of crisis. In army, in Air Force or the defense services, hierarchy is everything. And their hierarchy does not go for a toss. But in businesses, hierarchies go for a toss, and The insubordination sometimes starts. Sometimes we challenge the authorities of our bosses and move ahead because the crisis situation demands so. So if you are not senior enough, either you take charge, you snatch the charge, or you do some creative solution with your team so that your seniors are bound to hear to you or listen to you. And if attrition is high, who is leaving you? The people who were sitting on the fence or who were not engaged with you properly, the binding was not there, binding was missing. So they are taking the benefit and they are leaving. Anyway, if the person would have continued with you, he would not have been delivering 100%. So don't worry, there will be attrition. But now we need to see people who are left with us, we need to deliver it from them.
Amarji Chaudhary has a question. Would like to know how to motivate an employee who is there in a remote area.
Communicate through telephones or whatever. Now, in these days, we have all sorts of communication medium available, telephones, internet, or whatever. Think of the days not far back, say some 50 to 70 years back, and how Army would motivate their remote teams without walkie-talkie, without any connection. So the people who are away, they are in remote location, they are not able to meet them. But what I suggest, if they are approachable through telephone, create small groups within your team. Suppose you have a team of 200 people. There are 5 people who are in remote location. Can you make a team of those 5 people and give them that every day one person will take the lead and discuss or share these things? They cannot be, they can be or they cannot be work related things. So these days, many of us are learning household work, which we never learned. There could be discussion around that. There could be some hobby sharing activity can happen. So the people who are in remote, you have to find such people and they can be connected. So in our company, normally in month of April, we gather the entire team at some exotic location, and then we try to do a kind of conference and then deployment of targets and all those things. So it's generally 3 days affair, and every evening there will be recreation and parties and all those things. So this year we had same thing over VC. So the daytime there used to be sessions, and during each session, after each session, there will be a gap of 15 minutes or so that people can take a break for tea, coffee, or whatever. And then there were some murmuring sessions also, so that people can chat through WhatsApp parallelly. And the evening we had recreation sessions, R&R sessions, everything. And there are 150 guys involved into this. And then later, after this was 2 days this time, Friday, Saturday. And post the session, everybody appreciated, and they said, oh, we never realized that we call it Sangam. So Sangam can go so well through remote this thing. And what used to happen, certain guys did not have very good connectivity at their home. That's a limitation. No issues, the entire team will cooperate. If that person is speaking, we'll wait for 10 minutes. The heavens are not going to fall if we wait for 10 minutes. But the participation was there, and then all 150 guys participated, and we delivered something, and we created big plans, and all are raring to go in field once this lockdown is open. And another thing we did, we decided that we will not travel for next 3 months. Even if the lockdown is open, for 3 months, we all will work from home to save the travel cost first, to be safe, for the safety of our team and the safety of the people where we visit generally. So this pledge we have already taken, that even if the lockdown opens, it was supposed to open on say 20th of April, whatever, we took a call that we will not be traveling till 15th of July. Anyway, let's move ahead. Next question.
Another question from Sad. What is the difference between an emergency response team and a war room concept? Is it similar?
Yeah, there could be different names. I have not studied this emergency response team concept, so won't be able to comment. But yes, as the name suggests, the emergency response team is the team which really acts in the field. That's my understanding. Whereas a war room is a more of a planning team which ensures the action by other teams. But if I am not given the correct answer, please pardon me. I have no knowledge on the emergency task force concept.
Another question from Apurva. How do we remotivate or help our employees after the crisis is over, especially considering our current situation?
So don't wait for crisis to be over to motivate people. Please motivate them during the crisis situation. This is the right time to motivate them. Please ask them to learn. So a simple thing I'll tell you. In all the organizations, especially with the engineers, we have various trainings and Excel training, Microsoft Excel training and this. So last year when we met in Sangam, I said we will not be conducting Excel training and forth, and you have to learn Excel yourself. And this time, roughly 50-60% of the people are very good in Excel, but certain people do not know macros and all. So we said that after a week we will have tests for Excel skills. You all have to pass, and they're all seniors are also involved in that test. So that's how we managed it. So motivation has to happen through their participation, their learning, and these are the best times to motivate team, because after this crisis is over, we'll not have any time for any event, online event or whatever.
Suman has a question. How to remain composed when your own resources diminish with time? Let's say affected by the pandemic.
Do you have any other option but to remain calm? We certainly don't have any other option. We have to maintain our calm. Why? Because by being aggressive or by exhibiting your emotions unnecessarily, we are not going to gain anything. We are 2,000 kilometers away sometime from our employees, our team members, or the bosses. And generally, we in India, we do not have full trust on the electronic media. Sometimes we feel, hey, I may record this, or somebody may be listening to this, how I can speak this. All those things are also there. So best thing is to keep the calm. And for that, when you are in this kind of work from home situation, you have to resort to any kind of meditation or daily routine exercising, which will help you in maintaining your calm. That's the only suggestion. In normal times and regular time, exercise is the best solution for maintaining the calm.
Another question is on how do we manage the work-life balance, especially in this kind of a situation. A bit of a general question.
Work-life balance has gone for a toss for everybody. All the companies, too many meetings. People are in front of laptops and the systems for continuously since morning, and Saturday, Sunday is also not seen. So really, it's a work-life balance has gone for a toss. In fact, earlier we used to bring certain worries of work to home. Right now, all the work, everything is at home. So work-life balance we need to maintain, and we need to learn from sometimes the Europeans and sometimes Japanese. They follow the timing very strictly. So we start the office at office time, close the this thing at and whatever travel time we are saving, let's use it for our hobbies and exercising or whatever physical activity rather than continuing the work. So entire team has to discuss this and decide.
Satyamurthy Iyer has a question. Perfectionists can rarely be leaders during crisis. Am I right?
100% right. If you are a perfectionist, you cannot be a great leader during crisis time. Yes, Vinod?
Yeah, another question by Shailesh Master. Can you please explain a bit on the semi-organized solution that you had explained during the course of the...
Okay, so something is well organized, something is chaotic, in between is semi-organized. That's all. So semi-organized means we are in a crisis. We don't know why the crisis is there. We don't know what is the solution. But we know that by doing certain things, our affected stakeholders can feel better or can get some benefit. So that is the semi-organized solution. Sometimes in the parlance of doctors, you can say if nothing is known or understandable, let's try paracetamol. So it's not trial and error here, it's beyond paracetamol. You don't have the best medicine available, but you know the other medicine also works, but cannot work fully, but you can still try it.
Jayakumar has a question on presence of mind. He's asking if that's going to be a critical point when it comes to a war room approach.
Presence of mind by individuals is important, but in war rooms, the collective solution, collective working towards solution is more important rather than one person is having presence of mind. So it used to happen earlier that one boss will be there and he will dictate an entire team during the time of crisis, captain of the ship, and his presence of mind is everything on which the fate of the entire team is dependent. But in war room, there are participants. Collectively, they take calls, they discuss, they challenge each other's points of view. So the presence of mind is important by individuals, but collective presence of the solution finding is more important there.
Ratnavel has a question. His question is more on people, getting binding people during time of a crisis. Do people get bound by default, or does the leader have to really focus on getting them bound?
As leaders, we should not take anything for granted that in crisis people will be having good binding. No, they can fight also. And mostly in crisis times, whenever the scarcity of resources is there in any organization, the fight starts. So for leaders, we need to ensure the binding of the people or the harmony of the people, and we should not take it for granted that people will behave in certain manner. No, it won't happen. Yes, Vinod?
Priyanka has a question and a suggestion. Do you have some suggestions or a list of some relevant skills that could be given to employees during this crisis time?
Depends on your business. So it's totally dependent on the business, vary from business to business. So if Priyanka can share about the type of business she is into, then we may be able to suggest.
Madhulika Varma and Pankaj Bhargava both have a very similar question. Is in terms of team dynamics. Let's say your team is not cohesive, or let's say there are naysayers. How do we manage that in a crisis situation?
Okay, so if too many naysayers are there, that means they are not naysayers. You are not accepted as a leader. So you need to work on the basics, or rather, you need to establish your acceptability first, then tackling their quality of being naysayer. So if too many naysayers are there, then we should not blame them. Then we should do the introspection and change our approach quickly.
SD has a question. What happens when the team changes post-crisis? What approach do you take?
Team changes post-crisis, that means it's a new team. And if new team is working in a non-crisis situation, it's a hunky-dory situation. Everybody will be motivated and you can create a new team. So I hope I understood the question correctly.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. The other question is from Kirtana. How do we deal with work pressure and also ensure that we motivate the team at the same time after the crisis ends?
Vinod, can you repeat, please?
Yeah. So Kirtana's question was on how to deal with work pressure, at the same time motivate the team as well after the crisis ends.
See, after the crisis ends, nobody knows post-crisis what would be the situation, what resources will be available, what kinds of pressures would be there, whether the businesses will exist, or all those questions are there. So can't have our action plan ready for post-crisis situation of handling pressures and all things. We can't have a manual ready for that. However, if we maintain our calm during the crisis and keep the team motivated, there are all chances that the team will gel well and will deliver, and the pressures will not be those many as compared to any other team which has not worked well during the crisis time.
Kabir Dey has a question. He has requested you to differentiate between crisis and panic. since the terms are very well connected with each other, which tools could be helpful in motivating the team, in case of a crisis or
Okay.
a panic?
Very good. So panic is the reaction to crisis. Crisis is external in nature. Panic is your internal reaction to crisis sometime. So in a situation of panic, sometimes we tend to overlook the solutions available and take wrong decisions. So we need to maintain calm. So that is the difference between panic and crisis.
When we are in a crisis, mostly this will be the last question. Mr. Someshwara Prasad has a question. When we are already in a crisis, what should be our aim to minimize the impact?
You have well defined the aim already, that you need to minimize the impact. You are already impacted. So how we can minimize the impact is by handling the post-crisis situation properly. So sometimes in crisis situation, usually more so when in this kind of pandemic, when our hands are tied, we can't do anything. We can't go out and do the businesses where the shops are shut. So here we have to wait, and we need to prepare ourselves mentally. So all the preparation generally is more towards the mental side than being physical side. So mentally, if we are prepared that we'll be handling the post-crisis situation in this manner, we'll be able to minimize the impact. Second thing is, again, I go back to the stakeholders. If we understand that which are the stakeholders who are most affected most severely, we need to take care of those stakeholders first, so that our impact is minimized.
I think we have answered most of the questions. The rest of them I've noted it down also, Mr. Alok.
Great. So, thanks a lot for coordination, and it was very efficient from your side. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Alok, for the wonderful session today. And dear participants, we will be sending the recorded, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending the recording link as well as a presentation to each one of you. Thanks so much for being a part of the webinar today. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot. In fact, I enjoyed the answering questions.